Hi, welcome. I'm Mandy Black with Holistic Evolution Shala. So, unfortunately, I unknowingly suffered from the effects of childhood trauma until I was 39 years old. Now, as a certified yoga instructor, I am passionate about sharing what has been instrumental in my healing journey, which includes Ashtanga yoga, dialectical behavior therapy skills, and support. Today I'm talking about the effects of complex post traumatic stress disorder. Also, I'm going to refer to it as CPTSD. So, the information in this video I have pulled from my personal experience growing up with a parent who suffers from borderline personality disorder, or BPD. Also, what I've learned from being a part of Family Connections, which is underneath the National Education Alliance of Borderline Personality Disorder, or NEA BPD, and then also my personal research and investigation. So before we get started, the things I'm going to share with you will be around the effects of untreated BPD and the symptoms of children that experience being raised by a BPD parent. I've seen through my personal experience with Family Connections that when treated, the effects can be managed and kept to a minimum. My intention is to share what I've learned that has been so transformational in my own healing journey and possibly help reduce the stigma that's associated with BPD. With that said, I'm going to be really mindful and really respectful and very compassionate, and I'm going to ask the same of you as far as your comments go. When it comes to borderline personality disorder, it can be described as someone who is a third-degree emotional burn victim. With no skin, the slightest touch can send searing pain. And that's how someone with BPD goes throughout life, being easily dysregulated. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my personal experiences throughout my life, the general behaviors or patterns of a BPD parent, and then the effects to an adult child of a BPD parent. So, in infancy, because of an injury that resulted in a broken rib, I cried a lot. I was told it was difficult to hold me or cuddle me by my mother. She has also shared that she never bonded to me as an infant. As a toddler, I always felt that my safety was at risk, never feeling safe. At 8 years old, when my mother divorced my father, I became the helpmate. Because she lacked the ability to manage her own emotions, it was left to me to take care of my two younger brothers a lot of the time. As an adolescent, I developed abandonment issues. As a teenager, I had incredibly low self-esteem and I lacked self-identity. I struggled with maladaptive coping mechanisms such as drugs and alcohol, and I also really struggled with suicidality. I struggled in relationships, blowing them up out of fear. And then when I became a mother is when I really became determined to do better and to be better. Though I still had a long road ahead of me. I dated someone for 4.5 years that I now recognize also suffered the symptoms of BPD. And that type of chaos that comes with extreme emotional outbursts was very normal to me. Inevitably, I reached my limit though, and I needed to protect my son, so I found myself yet again out of another failed relationship. A few months after this breakup, I found myself at my worst as far as my drinking. With the fear of my son growing up with an alcoholic mother, I finally decided to stop drinking. At that point, I dedicated my life to my son, Ashtanga yoga, and reading every day. I had practiced fairly regularly up to that point, but after quitting drinking, I committed myself to practicing to at least 3 to 4 times per week. After 9 months of sobriety, I had a repressed memory come up from when I was 4. The memory was of me getting scolded for crying that my baby sister had just passed away. This taught me that I was not safe to express my feelings, and I became a very shy kid. A lot of self-work happened after this memory came up and creating an incredible amount of emotions to process through. So, after doing all this work, I got to the point where I was doing the best I had ever done. I was looking to buy a home and the pandemic had just happened. My mom was also looking to purchase a home at this time. And with my newfound resolve to put family first, I decided to purchase a home with my mom. Now, I was always aware that she suffered from depression and anxiety. I naively thought I could help her and add to her life in a positive way. Little did I know what I was about to experience. Living with her led to many experiences that were extremely re traumatizing for me, and I'm sure her too. I was confused as to why she was treating me like a monster. I was seriously trying to help her. I fell into a really deep state of depression and hopelessness, emotionally dysregulating every day for what I felt like was forever. As I shared the confusing and hurtful behaviors I was experiencing with a friend of mine, he asked me, "Have you ever heard of borderline personality disorder?" I had never heard of it. I was 39 years old. So I looked it up, and yep, sure enough, there are 9 characteristics, and if you have 5 of the 9, then you're thought to have the disorder. She had varying degrees of all 9 traits. I immediately went down the rabbit hole, learning everything I could. It's during this investigation that I found Family Connections of NEA BPD, which is a 12-week course that's specifically designed for family members of those who suffer from BPD. I signed up immediately, but unfortunately I had to wait almost a year before I got accepted into the program because limited or capacity is really limited. The dialectical behavior therapy or DBT skills that I learned have profoundly changed my life. And though DBT is widely used to treat borderline, suffering complex PTSD. I've actually found it extremely useful. So that was my experience in a nutshell. Thank you for listening. Now let's discuss what some of the behaviors of a BPD parent are. They struggle with instability in mood, identity, relationships. They're inconsistent in expectations and discipline. They can be very contradictory. They can go from idolizing you to devaluing you. My mom would tell me how wonderful I was and how proud she was of me. But then as she'd get really upset, she'd tell me that I'm a slut and you're going to ruin your son, which was rough. And they can go from overly attached to abandoning. And this inconsistency created a constant state of hypervigilance that I struggle with even still today. And they say that very insensitive comments that can be really hurtful. They can also experience what's called borderline rage. And this is with perceived ideas of abandonment, and they can really lash out. Effects of having a borderline parent on an adult child with untreated borderline is, I'm going to be really honest and vulnerable right now. For a while, I was seriously concerned that I myself had borderline, something that I discussed in length with my therapist, and she assures me I do not. So. Needless to say, I learned certain beliefs and thought patterns from my mother who suffers BPD. So, for example, black and white thinking and an intense fear of abandonment. Borderline is thought to occur when an already emotionally sensitive child experiences an invalidating environment. Emotional sensitivity is thought to be a genetic component, but then combine that with an environment that's invalidating, and the result can potentially be developing a personality disorder. And not everyone, of course, but sometimes. A borderline parent, after experiencing an incredibly invalidating childhood environment, ironically behaves in a similar way to their own children, creating an invalidating environment for their kids. Therefore, these children can grow up to suffer many consequences. Due to children growing up in an invalidating environment, they will experience many consequences as well. I will say that when I was struggling with alcoholism, I did indeed manifest more of the symptoms of BPD. But now, after being sober and learning so much, I understand that the symptoms I was experiencing was more in line with complex PTSD. So with me being able to get sober and learning how to integrate DBT skills into my life, I only now emotionally dysregulate sometimes. Children of BPD parents can struggle with an inner critic, perfectionism, constant inner chatter, constant anxiety, and hypervigilance. Learning dialectics with DBT will help you to reframe the bad versus good thinking, to both radically accept the situation and still hope for and act in a way that creates change. Two seemingly opposing ideas can, in fact, coexist. Another effect of having a borderline parent is that you can develop codependency. It can be really difficult to set healthy boundaries. You can grow up with a sense of fear, obligation, and guilt, easily falling into a relationship with people with symptoms of BPD. Because of emotional blackmail, the adult child can experience a difficulty in saying no. You could potentially take it upon yourself to be the savior or the protector, and you might find it difficult to have others care for you or find it impossible to ask for help. You may bounce from codependency to being extremely isolated. You may push people away or keep them distant out of some idea of self protection, avoiding connection. You may have difficulty with conflict management where you either completely avoid it or you get overly emotional about something not so big. And luckily, education around this delicate topic is available to help. Dialectical behavior therapy has a ton of very useful skills that can completely change your life. If you believe that you are struggling with the effects of childhood trauma, I highly encourage you to investigate more if you haven't already. If you find this useful, then please like my video. For more information on healing childhood trauma through yoga, DBT skills, and support, please subscribe to my channel, Holistic Evolution Shala. If you're a woman struggling with the effects of childhood trauma, you could consider working with me. My online course offers education, skills, and support through Ashtanga Yoga, DBT skills, and community. For more information, apply now, and we'll set up a call to see if the program is a good fit for you. I'll put the link below in the description. I hope you have a wonderful day. Namaste.